Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Please like, share and subscribe. So much to talk about, so much to digest after the last couple of days. There's so much going on in the footballing space, in the transfer elements as well, especially when it comes to Arsenal with Bruno Guimarães, with Man United and the situation with Tchouaméni, Matteas Fernandez. Is he going to go Tottenham? Is he going to go Manchester United? But it's the fan reaction that intrigues me so much as well in relation to these deals, and especially when it comes to the situation with Bruno G and the reaction from Newcastle fans, the way the likes of Luke Edwards have kind of responded and sort of suggested that the Bruno G news is a way of generating money and stuff like that. Plus, I want to give you my views and opinions on these things as well, but make sure you're liking the video, make sure you're sharing this across your social media platforms for us as well. It means a great deal. Just come outside to record again today. Again, far too hot in the oven, which is my studio at the minute. So, and I know I said the other day that just out here, and I said excuse the washing, which is not up today, but I said excuse the dog's paddling pool. Some of you thought I meant the actual swimming pool. Now you could actually see the mark on the grass right there. Can you see it? Where the paddling pool for the dog was. That's for Rocky, who's sitting over there. You gonna come say hello? I bet he won't. He's just not in the mood to listen to no one. Do you wanna come here? You gonna come say hi? He's blanking me. My dog, no respect. Rocky, can you come here? Come here. He's looking at me like I'm exhausted. Leave me alone. Anyway, let's jump into these stories in a little bit more detail. And I want to start with the Matteas Fernandez one. Now, I'm already at peace with the idea that Tottenham are very likely to land him. And I'm sad about it because I think he's such a talented player. I think there is such a good football player in there. I'm not too sure why the camera just did that. There's such a good football player in there. I'm annoyed. I'm frustrated. I'm not going to sit here and deny it. I'm not going to sit here and play it down. There was some positive updates yesterday from a Man United perspective, and I'm going to read some of these to you now because I think it's important to not ignore these. And what Andy Mitten here said is that Man United understand that the player wants to join the club. West Ham want the highest fee, as much money as possible, and an auction situation. Maybe his agent does as well, and the agent is influencing the player. Mendes is his agent. He goes, I am told he would play for Spurs but prefers Manchester United, which I'm not saying is a come and get me plea because it's coming from Andy Mitten. Ben Jacobs has also suggested that United still have a very good chance in this deal as an example, and I'll read that one to you as well because as I say, I think it's important. Andy Mitten also says Man United believe that Matteas Fernandez wants to join and prefers to play for Manchester United. There is then the update from, I'm going to find it now, from Ben Jacobs. It seems to have disappeared. Here it is. He says that Tottenham are putting serious money down for Matteas Fernandez, and it may be more inclined to overpay on certain targets. United and Tottenham have danced around formal offers, making verbal packages instead. He then goes on to say, he then goes on and alludes to the fact that, where's that further update gone? I'm very sorry. He then says that Fernandes is expected to decide the club he wants to play for by the end of the month. And away from the transfer news, this is where I really want to ascertain your opinions on this, because I feel like, and I want to make sure I say this in the right way, but there is this kind of element in this deal where I feel if the player picks us, and there might be a slight increase in salary that we pay him, maybe a slight increase in what the agent gets. Fair enough, I can stomach that. But where I worry is if we were only going to pay him 100k a week and he was happy, and we're now going to double his money. At the same time, if he doesn't fully commit to us first, and we get into this auction, this bidding war that West Ham want, he could end up costing Man United 15, 20, 25, maybe even as much as £30 million more than we wanted to pay. And there is a part of me that thinks, well, if you're going to pick us anyway, what are you doing by costing us more money? It's not as though you're a West Ham Academy product. You've been there for the last 10, 15 years of your life. Your mum and dad are West Ham fans, your sisters. your sister's married to the West Ham captain. I don't know, right? But I find it. I can understand Bowen doing something like this because of his connection to the club, how long he's been there. But I don't get it. And part of me feels, and maybe I don't get it because I'm being a Man United fan, my head's in the sand. But I look at it and I don't see it from a Man United perspective why we would want to then sign the player. Forget his ability for a moment because that's one part of the game. There is an element of how many more problems, it feels like a problem on day one, and how many more problems are you going to get with an individual like that? You know, imagine you're doing a job interview. Job interview starts at 10 a.m. and the person arrives at bang on 10 a.m. They walk through the door in the waiting area, and you go, okay, hi, let me get my coat off. Can I get a glass of water, please? Can I just run to the bathroom? And you start the interview at 10:05. And your feedback is, look, we were late starting. Well, I arrived at 10. Are you telling me if I start at 9, I have to be here earlier? I don't get paid till 9, so I walk in at 9. The interview said, be here at 10. I walked in bang on 10. That for me is straight away a red flag. You're going to have a problem with that individual. Straight away. And I know that this is a different scenario, but I get the same type of feeling here, that there might be problems with this player in the future. So I'm intrigued if Man United do still win the deal. I'm intrigued to know the ins and outs of it in that regard. But I want to get your opinions. I want to know what you guys think and feel on that as well. Now, the Bruno Guimarães situation is interesting. And the reason why I'm intrigued by this deal, the reason why this deal is of such interest to me, is I'm fascinated at the moment with Newcastle supporters. Newcastle supporters behave in a way online like I have never seen before. Genuinely, I've never seen anything like it. When they're linked to Wissa, Šeško and Bumo, only a week or so ago when they felt they were getting the brilliant young talent in Muniz, there was videos, there was compilations, there was tweets, there was articles, scouting reports, reactions from YouTubers, TikTokers aplenty. But if anybody even talks about the prospect of a Newcastle player leaving, how good Tonali could be for Spurs, where would Bruno G fit into the Arsenal system? Oh, could you imagine Lewis Hall at left back for Man United? You are attacked. Verbally, there are threats to physical violence. There are disgusting things said about your kids or your partners. It is like the Wild West when you mention that. And sometimes I feel this is done in a way to, if we can, almost, this isn't all Newcastle fans, and you might be one watching that says, you know what, I agree with Terry here, those Newcastle fans are crazy. I feel like sometimes they do it almost to apply this pressure on you so that you don't talk about their club, so that you leave them alone. And I find it strange, to say the least. I find it very, very strange, to say the least, that they sort of behave that way. And Bruno G is now a new version. And I saw Luke Edwards put out a tweet, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but we could tell what he was implying. Talking about Newcastle players in transfers is great for engagement, it generates money, and because of how big the Isak saga was, people are going to now create new sagas. The problem is although one source outside of Newcastle has said that Lewis Hall is not on Man United's radar, Laurie Whitwell has said that he is. Ben Jacobs has said that he is. In fact, what Laurie Whitwell has said, I'm going to come back to Bruno G in a minute, but you need the backstory here to make this all make sense. What was said about, I'm going to find this, here it is. Laurie Whitwell is very well respected, and what Laurie Whitwell said here is, we've mentioned Lewis Hall previously. So when everybody went crazy, and Ben Jacobs, an idiot, he mentioned Lewis Hall, there's nothing in it. And I sat there going, well, there's been other credible people as well. And Laurie Whitwell says here, we mentioned Lewis Hall previously. If they were to go for a left back, that's the name they'd look at as an example. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, but from a United fan perspective, it's worthwhile talking about it. But yet, it's met with craziness. Bruno G last night linked to Arsenal. Nonsense, lies, no way, made up, purely for engagement. No one should entertain this. and pretty much every single credible journalist known to man has said there is an interest, there's been an informal or a formal approach, the players' camp has been spoken to. Yes, right now Newcastle's stance is he is not for sale. But it's the way in which Newcastle supporters want us all to push that story. Well, it's what's been printed, Terry. You must push what's been printed. These aren't science books. This isn't a science experiment that's been done 500,000 times over a 100-year period with a few abnormal outcomes but a consistency. It's not like when you're at school and you put the magnesium under the Bunsen burner and it shines bright. Every now and then I bet a piece of magnesium doesn't do that, but we all know if you put that magnesium on the Bunsen burner it burns, right? We all know that. We all know if you don't do this, by the way, it's dangerous, but you know if you swallow some helium your voice goes squeaky. There's probably some times where your voice hasn't gone squeaky because science is never 100%. But the way some Newcastle fans are like, well, we've said we're not entertaining selling him, so no one should talk about it. It shouldn't be mentioned anymore. Don't debate it. Don't speak on it. It's weird. It is really weird behaviour because it's fun. Let's just put it down to what it is. It is fun to talk about the speculation. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. When I grew up as a kid, I'd go to my nan's house and my mum and my nan, aunties and, you know, predominantly the women from the local area would all sit around and they'd sit there and gossip. And I've always found transfer stories are like football fans gossip, and we love it. Where do you think this player's going to go? Where will he end up? Because it's harmless. I don't really enjoy the gossiping and the talking about serious problems within football because they're emotive and people get upset by them. But transfers have and should always be fun. And I think it's wrong for any fan base online to try and make it overly serious and make it like you're talking about sexism, homophobia, racism, something that's really taboo, or something you should never use that word, or you should never say this. And a lot of those things we all agree on. But when it comes to transfers, chill the fuck out. Genuinely chill out. And if you don't like it, just don't go on, just don't mute the player's name, mute transfers. Don't click on people's, like mine, I do transfer videos. Don't click on them. Why wind yourself up? It's so weird. It's like not liking Dave Chappelle's comedy, but then watching it, just so you can then tweet about it and moan. Proper weird behaviour. But I think there's a chance in this. I think there's a chance. And Arsenal spoke to the camp, and now they've made an inquiry to Newcastle. You don't make the inquiry to Newcastle if Bruno G is not open to leaving. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to work it out. And barring the Newcastle media that are saying Newcastle will not yield, Newcastle will not sell, most of the others are using words like they won't sell for that fee, they're not interested in selling at this point or at this moment, or as things stand, Newcastle say no sale. I wouldn't take it as gospel, even though it might end up being the truth. They may not sell the player. But I do want to get your opinion on this. And I do want to understand what you think and what you feel in relation to this transfer. Do you think Arsenal will continue to push? Do you think Bruno will start to ask to go? Do you think he'll look at this and say, wow, a chance to join the best team in England, play for Mikel Arteta, play for Arsenal? Do you think he'll be very happy to stay where he is? Remember, 2 years left on his deal. As ever, look, I want your thoughts, I want your feelings, I want your opinions on this in the comment section below. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.